from illustrated boards to graphic design to brand book. Do you have like one project that stands out?
Well, actually, two.
So welcome back. We're episode 68. We got a special guest in the studio, Johnny Schillereff.
Hello, how you doing?
Good, man. How are you?
I'm wonderful. I'm actually doing great.
Stoked you flew up from SoCal, staying at the Lincoln House.
Yes.
So let's, for the viewers who don't know who you are, let's kind of do we don't want to go super deep because your accolades go years and years, and there's a lot of things that you've done and has happened over the years, but let's just kind of give a brief kind of bio on where you came from and where we're at now.
Oh my gosh. Well, I guess what I'm most known for is being the founder of Element.
My son formed Element in 1992.
His father used to say, we should get off that damn skateboard and get a job.
I don't want to come off braggadocious or anything, because everything I talk about today, let's just make sure I make it clear that I was surrounded by absolutely incredibly talented people, artists, entrepreneurs, partners, operators, warehouse people. I mean, it took an army.
Even the team riders. I mean, let's just say the era that you were there, or really had your foot in. You had everybody. Jake will pull up the photo with everybody.
Oh, there's the black and white. There's one black and white photo that
Brent everyone in there. Little baby Nija.
Yeah. So as I go into all this, there was just so many incredible riders, even outside of Element and the other brands that help guide me, and mentors, so a lot of it feels quite surreal, to be honest. Got Jagger Eaton, who's been just absolutely fabulous. He's like a family member to our family and his family too. And we got in there with Jagger long before the Olympic movement. I mean, he rode for Plan B, and then knew him prior to that even. So really tight with the Eaton family.
That's cool.
What's the brother up to these days? We're getting off sidetrack now. Jet, well, just Jet primarily, because those were the two. They were like
Jet and
neck and neck.
Costin are still shredding.
I bet.
Jet's very involved with KTR. I'm actually a partner in KTR.
Okay.
So I'm involved with that project too, which is wonderful. Able to work with those guys, and I'm sure we'll talk about that, of just like uplifting the youth through skate parks and different curriculums and programs that help promote positive skateboarding.
So cool. Yeah, I'm probably going to sidetrack the crap out of this podcast just because I'm, a big fan of skateboarding, and kind of like a hater on traditional sports a little bit, just because of like, you got to be here at Tuesday at 5:30 for practice, and you got to wear a jersey, and you're probably going to sit on the bench, and there's all these parameters that with skateboarding, there's literally no parameters, and then you have a true expression to do whatever you want. And with that, I like to say that skateboarding is the coolest thing ever, and it leads rock stars look into skateboarding, fashion people look into skateboarding, because there's nothing else that has this level of freedom of expression where you can truly do whatever you want. And then dudes are out there getting weird in a cool way. We got you could run the gamut of, a Lizard King comes to mind right now, but just random ass dudes, you know what I mean? So it's just a really cool space. Range. So it's like you're helping facilitate that with more parks and places, and even putting good boards into stores and getting these kids like on with good products. So
which is Heart Supply Co.
Heart Supply, the Heart Supply. When I decided to step back from Element a few years ago, it was about. a lot of people just thought automatically you'd go and start another skateboard brand. It seems to be like the what typically happens, but I just couldn't really, to be honest, I couldn't even, one, how do you top Element, and then two, like just reading that book again kind of like made my brain hurt. So I was like, instead of trying to earn the respect from the core for the next 20 years, when you start a new brand and can you be like in the club, it's like I'll go from the top down and let's go right into Target right out the gate, and we'll be able to do a lot of great things for skateboarding. We'll go mainstream, go mass, and more than likely the core will have issues with that, but it'll still take 20 years to get their respect whichever way you start. So let's start with where we can reward the community and the riders and do things for the little kids, because ultimately it takes 20 years to get to the same spot.
Yeah, I mean, skateboarding has like so many unwritten rules that I think a lot of those rules are being rewritten now. It's like so interesting. I was listening to a podcast last night about, you know, this rider taking on a energy drink sponsor back in like the early 2000s, and it was like almost a detriment to his career. And then now everyone and their mom has that. So it's like, it's just like, it's just a reality of business and life. And it's like, you're going to have to get maybe some kooky sponsors. Like not everyone could be, you know, Jim Greco or whoever, but so it's just interesting. So the route that you went is you're like, you know, everyone else will probably do it eventually. So let me just do it first.
I mean, it took World Industries, you know, I don't know how many years to finally get into like big doors, or let's say Dark Star.
Yeah, big box.
And people
stores.
do it, and I don't think there's anything wrong with it. And there's always a place for it in the market, and it just gets more kids on skateboards. So
and good skateboards.
Yeah, and quality skateboards, depending on which brand you're looking at. I mean, it's funny, when Heart Supply launched, you'd have these guys saying like, you know, I tested out the board, and you know, I just tray flip lip down Hollywood 16, and it had a little flex in it, and I wasn't really feeling the way it rolled away. And you're like, bro, this board is for like a 6-year-old or a 12-year-old that's like trying to learn how to kickflip. So, and it works perfectly fine for that. In fact, it's better than any other board on the market.
I mean, I had like plastic trucks the first time on my national board of my Veriflex. So that alone,
it encourages kids to want to keep skating. You don't want them to go out and buy some wonky
shitty
toy board. And if you talk to any skater, more than likely their first skateboard came from a place like Walmart, Target, you know, mass market, Dick's Sporting Goods. And I would also say, to one thing you said a minute ago, what I find fascinating is that in the skateboard community, skaters love golf, skaters love basketball, skaters love hip hop, and you know, Travis Scott goes out and gets a Happy Meal endorsement, and everybody and their mother's like doing backflips for him, and Kobe Bryant's out there making tons of money, and Jordan. But and these skaters go to those games, they hop in their car and crank that music, and they're bouncing around celebrating the success of people in different genres. But then when their own peers try to have the same or equal success, if not greater, it's frowned upon. And I think that's total BS. I don't understand it. It's a total contradiction.
Catch-22. Super weird.
It's totally not cool.
Yeah. You also did not mention CEO of USA Skateboarding. We're still trying to get through your kind of bio here.
You were a pro skater too. Hold on, you were a pro skater too, right?
Yeah.
Well, I call it a poser pro. It's debatable.
You skated on a team.
I was sponsored, legitimately sponsored, went on tour.
Yeah, that counts.
Legitimately had a video part, all that kind of stuff. So yeah, I traveled around with all the big guys. I skated, my funny story, to tell you where I made it. This is like my pinnacle moment in skateboarding is I got flown out to California to Laguna Beach, and I skated in the same contest as, I want to make sure I get this right, but it was so long ago, but it's something along these lines. But it was Gons, Templeton, I don't know, but I think Nadas was there, and Jason Lee. And I watched these guys skate, and I knew it was game over. That tells you. And then I was like, all right, I need to get in the skateboarding business. I definitely don't have a tray flip like this guy.
That's not bad. If you listed those names,
that's when I knew I was like out. Yeah. It was like a little league basketball player trying to play in the NBA. Obviously, USA Skateboarding is massive. So it takes a big part of my time, and I love it. It's been a huge challenge. I've learned so much. I mean, I'd never in a million years thought I would be the CEO of really what is the lead up to the Olympic Games. Yeah. That's crazy. Like, it's kind of wild to think about. And then the Heart Supply, which is sort of our give back skateboard company that, its goal is to, one, give skateboards to kids in need. So we have a nonprofit organization connected to that called Give Skateboarding. So through the Heart Supply, we're able to give skateboards. We've given thousands of boards at this point to kids all over the world. But also the Heart Supply, the goal there was to make a quality, complete skateboard. That's important to say. Wheels, trucks, all that, drilled together for kids. So when they get their first skateboard, it doesn't make them not want to skate. And a lot of these parents too, that they're getting their kids into skateboarding, so they can't be fooled. So they pick the board up and they have a general idea of a quality skateboard. Like, so if they go to Walmart or Target or Dick's Sporting Goods or wherever they're going to get their kid the first skateboard, because they don't necessarily want to spend $150 or they can't.
And it's just scary walking into a skate shop sometimes.
That's exactly right. There's a whole path. It's a whole path of like a mom or dad, but especially a mom these days. If you have a conversation, I mean, they really don't know where to go. Yeah. It's not like people think it's like easy to know. You don't know. You just automatically don't know where to go. And then if you do go, let's say to a core skate shop, there's a level of intimidation. A lot of them won't carry a complete skateboard. So then you got to start asking questions that are awkward. And so, it's just a reality in our space. So the idea with Heart Supply was to make a board easily available and easily affordable, and not just serve to one particular demographic. And that's worked out nicely. Our boards are in Target, which I'm very proud of. Yeah. I see that as a great thing.
Yeah. And they look good, and they stand out.
And we make quality skateboards too. Not that the other ones aren't quality, but high-end, really good boards for our skaters, or if someone wants to try it out or promote the brand. We do make obviously Jagger's winning the Olympics and getting podiums and doing all sorts of stuff on a high-quality board that we make for him and others who might want it. Yeah.
I feel like a lot of people are, hopefully starting to realize, like, as you look at people or companies and they kind of take back the veil and you see, like, a lot of it is hard work. You know, it's just putting in the time. It's the hard work. Like, there isn't a secret. Like, even when it comes down to just something as stupid as, like, some of our illustrators and illustration work and stuff like that, like, where do I get those brushes and shit like that? It's like, it doesn't matter if you have that brush. Like, you didn't spend the last 30 years illustrating like Damaso did, so it's never going to look like that. Totally, he put in the time, he put in the work, and now this is the final product. There's based on those 30 years. Yeah, there's no trick. That brush that you're going to buy isn't going to get you to.
I've been looking for that brush. Right? I've been looking for that brush.
Isn't out there.
Yeah, it doesn't exist. I got to give you guys a lot of credit too. Lincoln, for me too, one of the things I've always loved about it, that I think has a lot in common with maybe even some of the projects I've done, is that not only have you put in all the hard work, but your design aesthetic is very clear. Yeah. And so you're able to, when you design for, let's say, Hot Wheels or Tony Hawk or whatever it might be that you guys are up to, you can always see, one, you're satisfying the needs of your client. So you're getting over the line what they need. And then you're also able to keep your aesthetic clear, one, through presentation and things you're doing that even the consumers don't see, and then two, even with the work the consumer does see, you're like, I think that the Lincoln guys probably had their hands on that. And
totally.
I feel like Element had that aesthetic, and I think that's what drew a lot of people to the brand. Yeah, was that we've talked about that it's very, very much based on kind of graphic design, like more so at that time than a lot of the other brands, that were out there, like, and that all comes from you and kind of your eye. And a lot of people were open to that, and it made sense, and it looked great. You could tell what an Element board or product looked like.
Let's think about that era. We got, Blind with the little character, which again, I love all these brands. Yeah. You got World with all of McKee's stuff, and again, I love it all. But when I was a kid, there was just something about Element. It was just, and now doing what I do for a career is just so interesting. I'm like, it all makes sense in hindsight. But yeah, Element was always just doing something a little different. Something I wanted to bring up we were in a meeting with you like 15 years ago, and which is cool for me.
Oh my God, I'm old.
But we were looking at some board graphics, and from a graphic design standpoint, skateboards are pretty challenging because of the canvas is tall and skinny and super challenging. And you had brought up like, oh, in the past I would go to the bread aisle, and the bread is about the same composition or ratio size as a skateboard, and you're like, I'll get some inspiration from that. And I always love that because normally it's like if we're gonna do t-shirts, they're like the clients like, what are the competitors, can we do some t-shirts like them? But you're like, I didn't get reference from whoever, Mark McKee, fill in the blank. I went to the bread aisle, you know what I mean? So it's like complete opposite. So that's something that stuck with me forever, and I love that.
It actually started in the bookstore. I used to spend a ton of time in Barnes and Noble just looking at illustrations. And the irony of getting all these books with like abstract art and amazing illustrations, Van Gogh, Norman Rockwell, whatever, I noticed the spines of the books in the bookstores were skateboard composition. It had a cool typography going down the spine of the book, a little reference to the book itself, but like an iconography of the book itself. And then I was like, hold on a minute. And then I like went to the spine of the book, and then I go back to the bread aisle. I was like, what looks like skateboards that's different? Candy bars. And I just started kind of researching it. And honestly, a lot of the original stuff was almost like knockoffs of things in the bread aisle that had really poppy color. And then again, you blend that with like a lot of outdoor references, because that's kind of obviously the backstory to Element. And then that just kind of became my thing. And then almost not even, I mean, you guys have actually watched the evolution of me finally kind of crawling out of the chasm and being like, I like my character and I'm over it. I'm going to just bring him out. And then once I had the budget, because I wasn't anti-illustration. I mean, I loved all that stuff. But once I actually started having a little bit of budget inside Element to get people like Todd Francis or Nodis or Don Pendleton, Jeremy Fish, all these amazing artists. Once I could actually pay them, I implemented them into the company immediately, and then added my kind of, I guess, my little spin, as you guys saw. You guys were a huge part of that, because I'd always call you like, hey, can you draw this? I can't draw this. And then I'd be like, but we're going to put a capsule around it and a big tree logo on the front and add typography and elementize it. And that's sort of, I mean, shoot, I got to give a lot of credit to Lincoln, because you guys were a huge factor in all that, because you drew a lot of the stuff I couldn't draw.
We did a bunch of fun boards, ran the gamut from illustrated, boards to graphic design to brand book to like a bunch of different shit.
So much.
Do you have like one project that stands out that we've kind of worked on together as a team here at Lincoln with?
Well, actually, two come to mind. One is the brand book. And I think the brand book a lot was because you and I were able to really connect, and I got to get inside Dan's brain. And
I brought my iMac up to your office.
Yeah, and you posted up, and I
set it on your desk next to you, and like
and I've not worked with a lot of people like that, where we had that ability to literally shoulder to shoulder work for days on something quite big, and the trust factor there. Was huge, It
was huge. I was very stoked on that whole process and the way it went down, and
that was an interesting time too within Element, because it was such a critical part of the company. And as we were growing and we were publicly traded and we were going through acquisitions and lots of big top level stuff that was very corporate, and to have that anchor.
So the branch, that office space, that warehouse, like even like the way our studio looks here. I remember going there for the first time and being like, fuck, this is what like my design studio, I would love it if it looks like this. Like you had the old trailer inside there. The conference room was in there. I was like, that is fucking sick.
Didn't we make a board out of that trailer?
We did do the board. Yep. We was towing the big ass long trailer and that whole deal. Yep.
Grayson Fletcher hanging off the back.
Yeah, Grayson Fletcher.
No shoes, no shirt, no problem.
That was a great spot. So I'd say the brand book was one of the, that was just a very personal situation that I appreciate. Also your privacy and your ability to kind of keep things tight, because I was sharing a lot of things that I was personally going through at the time because of the sort of pivot inside the big corporate sort of cogs that you got to actually see firsthand. And then I would say the fish project where we did the fish board, and we did like a whole series of like patterns and a lot of like outdoor like bears.
There's
and
the bear
grizzlies.
pattern, and we have all that stuff out hanging up out there. And I mean, it's 15 years old now, but it still holds up. Like you look at that and you're like, oh, I'd wear that.
That all over print on the sort of button up shirt and the board. And, you know, also I think just even with the shape, we just sort of broke through. That was not, especially during that time, that was not easy. And we did videos of people skating on it, and it was just ridiculous.
I mean, I remember sending you guys concepts because we had about 4 different versions, which will pop up. And just the shape alone, you and your team would go out in the back and literally jigsaw cut out a board and see if it was still skatable and send it back to us. And then we had to, okay, let's move the tail a little bit, just, you know, of the fish on the tail to actually have it skate a little better. And those details for me, I was just like, damn, this is the right way to do it. This is so cool.
Yeah, and you can actually skate it. And it's funny, that board, you want to know how we know it stood the test of time? Is that at the office, we would always have like these cruisers that people would just put up on the wall and lean on the wall and go skate to the coffee or go skate to the other side of the building. And that fish board was the board. The go-to. I mean, that thing, it just had such a huge... I think I have it in my office, like a part of my collection.
I think there's a top graphic that's like in the grip tape, which is just cool.
There's a lure that goes with it that's on the wheels.
I mean, the wheel design.
Well, you guys are your fanatical attention to detail is ridiculous. I mean, so that thing, it's funny. Like you have a trout like right next to you.
We got the.
That's probably where it all started.
Right? Totally.
Gone fishing.
I would say that is way up there. But man, I think the thing you guys did, I mean, it's a trick question because the one thing that for sure, like Lincoln and Element and all the stuff that I typically do has a bit of an outdoor sort of feel to it. Everything was just always so on brand. Yeah. You know, you guys were just, when it came to like Swiss Army knives and tents and bears and grizzly vibes.
I mean, I think what's so cool is if you look back at Element, like doing the outdoor thing at that time, nobody was doing it. I mean, you do that right now and you're like, oh, I'm going to come out with this outdoor skate brand. It's like, oh, fuck yeah, sure you are. You know, there's a million outdoor brands. Like North Face is fucking killing it, right? Like
even just in skating alone.
Yeah, in skating alone.
But non-skating.
There was not a brand doing that. You know, in that kind of lane, and like you crushed it. And then just the story behind the brand. It wasn't like, oh, here's just this logo. The wind, water, fire, earth, that whole thing. There was a whole fucking story.
If a company has a spirit, then you need to make that clear. Because otherwise it's just a company just making product for the sake of making product. And Element, the idea was to make product for the sake of making a difference.
That's where the brand book was deep.
It was so deep.
It told the whole story. You know, this wasn't a brand book of like, oh, here's all the logos and a couple graphics, like type of brand book. This was like, no, this is the heart and soul of the company.
Yeah.
And this is what it means like to you. And it all came from you. And it was like, this is fucking gnarly. And then just that whole deal was like, there was an era of just rad shit coming out of, those companies that you built.
And it's just, it was just a
good people.
Magical.
Cool era. Yeah.
Magical. I got really lucky. I think, like I said earlier, the timing was insane. But no, man, I think that with skateboarding and what we collectively, all the people that I was around, were able to achieve during that window, which was a long window. I mean, like, geez,
it was. Yeah.
It wasn't like a little window. It was it was like a 25-year window. And, but I really, it's just crazy. And things are different now, I think with Element and some of these other brands, I think that it's kind of gnarly to say this, but like the time of building a legacy brand is very difficult. I think that is just, I don't want to say that it's over. Yeah. But I definitely think it's going to be a while.
Yeah.
It's going to be a while.
I think with like the internet and just like, let's say less gatekeeping, like I can go make my own board right now pretty easily. Yep. I can get my buds together, put an Instagram page together. I don't need to be on whatever brand. So it is so easy just to spin up a brand, where back in the day you had to have some cash. Like you had to buy the boards. What was the minimum order? Probably 72, and you needed some cash. And
You have to follow the rule book. You have to tick all the boxes: cover thrasher, skater of the year, like SOTY. You had to like have an interview here and have a video part there and this, that, and the other, and get the nods from the secret society.
Yeah, the team's got to accept everybody.
Everybody got to get in the van, and you know, all these different things, and the parents, and you got to like not wear a helmet, and da 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 da. And then you're just like, man, if you make it through that period, it's cool. But you know, those guardrails are definitely slowly, you know, there's a changing of the guard right now. There's no question.
I think some of it is the kids coming up are just so used to being bombarded with all this information and graphics and all this shit that they want to see something new all the time.
Oh yeah.
And instead of like board graphics staying for 6 months or a year or 2 years or 5 years, this shit comes out and it's gone. You know, what's the next one?
Yeah.
So it's like nobody's really able to latch on and like really dig into like one graphic or one, you know, rider or whatever it is. Like,
I was listening
it's just too quick
to a podcast, and they were saying, oh yeah, we rocked this board for 8 seasons, this one board graphic.
Really?
And it's just like nowadays, I mean, how many board graphics are getting used like that, you know?
It's wild.
They should though, because they have just recolor it. It's a great board, you know?
The Element section board, you know, that's always the classic one. It's been around, like Baker's got one too, Reel's got one. You know, if you're an iconic brand, you could literally just live off 2 graphics, 3 graphics, and that's not, unfortunately for the new guys, it takes you 20 years to establish a graphic like that in order to be able to pull something like that off. And that's just different. We're in a different world. And I think, you know, we got by the skin of our teeth. I think obviously Baker, Reel, there's a few out there, right, that you just look at it and they're just iconic.
Yeah. All right. So, damn, man, I'm glad you came up. Hey, we tried this once before. It's been a mission to get Johnny up here. You're busy.
Now that I'm a creature of habit, so now that I know the flight, your
it's easy.
Little house, which is absolutely fabulous. Now that I know how to get here. I'm one of those guys that once I get in my comfort zone, I'm good.
Yeah, you're welcome anytime.
Yeah.
So
what a beautiful place you guys have created here.
I appreciate you coming up and sitting down, and it's always good to catch up. And
we'll have to do a follow-up part 2 episode in a year or 2. I already have too many questions and stories. I want you to tell us about grip tape with ladder grip tape and all these fun stories that we'll save.
That's right. There's some fun shit.
Oh my god.
Just all that stuff, we'll save it. We'll do it in a year or 2.
You're a skate nerd. I know. I can't believe you remember that.
Just fun stuff. The stories I've heard you tell that I've been lucky to hear that. I think, you know, these kids need to hear too, you know.
Yeah.
So,
No, I appreciate that. Well, what you guys have done for skateboarding and how you've used it as like the foundation of your brand, and you still give back to it and represent it, and you do art for it, and you've got these huge clients, but you keep it real and skate is absolutely so cool. It is just really cool for you guys. Have never lost those roots. That's why I've always had such great respect for your talent, and your sort of commitment to skateboarding is ridiculous.
Appreciate that.
Oh yeah, respect, man.
All started there, so we're stoked to still
couldn't have done
involved.
it without Lincoln, honestly. And all the other people that have helped me out through the years.
Yeah, appreciate that.
Yeah.
Cool. All right. Well, check out Heart Supply, USA Skateboarding. What else? Anything else?
Give Skateboarding, hence. I think, that's probably
Jake will pop some stuff.
Whatever's out there.
Check it all out.
Shout out to Mr. Rogers and my family mostly.
There you go.
Oh yeah,
Mr. Rogers.
Camden, we missed you.
Camden, where the heck are you?
Yeah, we'll come down south for the round 2 on this.
I like that idea.
We need to go get back down to Cali, so
I like that.
We'll come down to you. But
cool, man.
Yeah, cool. Appreciate you having you on here, man.
Thank you so much for having me.
Yep. All right, watch, ring the bell, do whatever on
like,
YouTube.
subscribe, comment.
Appreciate it.